There we go. Recording now. Hi, everybody. My name is E.C. Pollock-Burns. I'm the CSM for Community Foundation of the Hudson Valley at Foundant Technologies, like Eliza mentioned. I'm going to show you today a few tips and tricks to how to use our software system. I understand we do have a mixed group of folks here, veterans and newbies alike, so hopefully you'll find something that is a good takeaway from this training. Like I said, it is going to be recorded. It's recording now, so this will be here as a resource for you as you sort of move forward and continue to volunteer with the Community Foundation year over year. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second here. Hey, can everybody see my screen? Can I see heads and thumbs again, if you can? Awesome, lots of heads, lots of thumbs, great. So this is gonna be pretty much your exact screen that you're gonna be seeing, except without the word sandbox going in 1,000 times here diagonally. So there's two sort of environments that we have. This is sort of our practice test environment. And because we're not actually quite ready to assign students to you all for evaluation yet, what I've done is I've just made an exact copy of the universal application in the sandbox test environment with some fake data, just sort of for some context, but literally the application you're going to see is the same, the evaluation you're going to see is the same. You are going to be provided a different URL, and when you do get that, I would recommend you bookmark that or just keep it somewhere safe so that you have it to log in. If you have not done this before and you are new this year, you will have to click this forgot your password button. So all your data has been preloaded into the system. We've created an account for you. Don't click this create new account button. That will be the student assuming, the system assuming you're a student. So don't click that button. Do click that forgot your password if you're new this year or if you're returning and you just can't remember your password at all. So either way, that will help you. It'll send a link to your email that you can then just click a button, reset your password, and get in here, no problem. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second so I can log in as an evaluator so that you see exactly what you will see. Here. All right, resume share, here we go. Okay. So when you log into the system, you're going to see all of the list of evaluations for all the students we are asking you to review for. And all of you have been broken up into various committees based on what scholarships you're going to be reviewing for. So all that work is sort of done by the Community Foundation staff ahead of time. They're going to divvy up the applications for everybody to read so that when you log on to the system, this dashboard here shows you exactly what we're asking you to do. So in this case, my EC demo committee member, she's got 2 applications to read. I think you guys probably have a few more than 2, but either still, just for our example, I've got 2 here that I've been asked to read and review for. Now, a couple things just worth noting from this dashboard. One thing's worth noting is that all of these sort of columns here that are in this table, these are sortable. So let's say that I'm reviewing 5 Eileen Hickey Nursing Scholarships and 4 Richard W. Mitchell Memorial Scholarships. If I wanted to sort, either A to Z or Z to A and group all of those scholarships together, if I click on this process tab, this will allow me to do that and group all the different scholarship opportunities sort of together. Same thing is true with the student name as well. So let's say I want to rank all my students and I have more than 1 student that I'm reviewing here for. By clicking on any of these tabs in here, you can sort and sort of group this information any way that makes most sense to you. The other thing you can use is this quick search tab here. So for example, if I'm only looking for the Eileen Hickey Nursing Scholarship, I can use my little quick search here, and this will sort of filter out anything that does not meet that search criteria. So if you have a long, long list of applications that you're reviewing for and you need to quickly pull one up, this quick search functionality can be helpful for that reason. All right, I'm going to pause here just a second. Any questions on anything I've said thus far? Clear as mud? Okay, I'm going to keep doing this. I talk fast also, so if I'm talking too fast, just let me know and I'll slow down. But I'm going to do a couple more pause points as well. So keep thinking about what questions you might have for me. Now, the one thing that is important that you know is that we have different statuses for the evaluations we are asking you to fill out. So when you first log on, you're going to see something exactly like this. You're going to have a pending red bar here, and then a number that corresponds to how many red pending sort of exclamation points you have going on here. And the two are not, this is not by coincidence, the two are linked. So however many scholarships that we're asking you to review for will be down here, a number will be here, and these statuses will likely match until you get in here and start evaluating. So there's three statuses here in evaluation land. The first is called pending. It's what we see now. It's red. Red lets us know we have not yet looked at this application. We have not entered in any evaluation criteria. This is still sort of a work in progress. So we still need to get in there and rank those and evaluate those students. The second status is called draft. And draft basically means, good job, you've gotten in there and you've given it a go, you've started it, but you haven't quite finished filling out all required questions. This is important because it's super easy to miss questions, especially if it's a big rubric, and we definitely want the student to get full marks as possible. So we will actually flag it for you if you accidentally just skipped the question, you scrolled too far or something and just missed it. It will be identified then as a draft status. So we're not quite there yet, but we've given it a go. We've started it. So that will be a yellow status, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. The last status is called complete, and that will be green. So if you've done everything you need to do, you've filled out all evaluation criteria questions, it will go from red to yellow to green. And the goal that we're asking you to do is your entire bar up here should be green. Green is good in scholarship evaluation land, okay? Okay, I'm going to show you now how to actually get into the application and the evaluations and what that looks like. And we're also going to watch how these colors and these statuses change as we go about and do this. So let's go first into this first one. And the way that I can access both the application and the evaluation is this little pending icon. So this icon over on the right-hand side of each of my rows for my students, that will bring us up into an evaluation tab that looks like this. So this is something called side-by-side evaluation. It is aptly named because we are looking at things side by side. On our right-hand side, we see the application, and we can kind of scroll through and look at that information and what we have, what the applicant has filled out. On the left-hand side, based on what scholarship you are reviewing for, we will have questions for you to fill out. And so we've got lots of really helpful bits of information here. We give you nice, I'll kind of scroll or zoom in here a little bit. We've also got this nice perforated line. So if I'm looking at one form over the other, I can scroll and collapse this or expand it based on what I'm looking at. But we have got nice little instructions here on what we're being asked to fill out. And as we're reading all this information, we can actually start filling out this information based on what we think the student qualifies for, okay? So I've gone ahead, I've started some. I haven't quite finished yet because I accidentally skipped this question. I'm gonna pretend that I didn't see it. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. And you'll notice down here, we actually don't have a submit button, and that's also by design. We just have a save button when it comes to saving your scholarship evaluations, because we want you to have the ability and the flexibility to, as you're going through reading applications and evaluations, let's say, you didn't quite have your coffee this morning, and, after reading a couple, you said, okay, that first kid, that was a pretty good essay. That wasn't so bad. We want you to have the ability to go back, reread, reassess. So if I go back and I go back to the student, now we can see this is what a draft example looks like because we did skip that one question. If I do go back in there And let's say I say, just kidding, that essay was wonderful and that student did a great job. I can change my answers pretty easily. Okay. I can also finish my question I skipped. So I'm going to hit save again, and let's go back to the dashboard and see what that looks like. All right. So a couple things worth noting. The one that I just worked on turned green. Yay. That means I've done everything I need to do. Everything looks good. You'll also notice a score column that gets generated. This is my big joke that I work with community foundations that have millions of dollars of assets, and my big joke is I can't do math. This is one of my favorite parts about our software. We will do the math for you. So we will calculate the number of points that you are giving students. It always will be divided by the number of total points that student could have received for that scholarship, and it will generate a percentage score for you so that you can kind of see very clearly this is how you have ranked that student for the criteria that they need to be ranked on for that particular scholarship. This brings me to a second point where you'll notice I didn't touch this second scholarship. I only touched this first scholarship. And so now I actually have a percentage that's been generated here. And that's because if you are evaluating across multiple scholarship opportunities, and let's say that a student you are evaluating for qualifies for multiple opportunities, we want this to be easy for you. We don't want you to go back in and have to re-rank that student on some of the same criteria you just ranked that student on for scholarship number one. So in this case, this is something that's called a pseudo-common evaluation question. So something like, let's see here, financial need. That was something that you've already looked at my EFC, you've already looked at my extenuating circumstances, you've already given me a score. That doesn't really change across scholarship one and scholarship two. So this is already filled out for you when you go to rank that student. Now for this particular scholarship though, there is an essay that is included about overcoming obstacles. That is only true for this scholarship, is not true for the other scholarship. So that was not filled out already. That you will still need to come in and fill out additional criteria. So for this particular scholarship, there's one more thing I need to look at, one more thing I need to rank on. Okay. But as far as anything that was pseudo-common, that's going to be remembered for you for that particular student across a different opportunity. Any questions on that before I move on? Because that can be a little trippy sometimes to see when you're working on one application and you see some things already filled out on another. Does that make sense?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Will that only be like if it's a special essay? Because I found that was the one that may fit better for one scholarship and not for another scholarship. Because if they were writing for an engineering scholarship or writing for overcoming obstacle, the essays were different. So will that only not be filled in on that essay?
Yes, so the idea is if that is a separate essay that student has to submit, that will be a separate scoring opportunity for you to say. So that overcoming obstacles essay, I actually got lucky and picked a really good example here. This is a totally different essay than the generic essays or the other things that students might have to submit. So that'll be unique to just that opportunity for that scholarship. Great question.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you change, like for example, the financial aid? Can you have it different in different scholarships if you chose to?
It depends, and Eliza, I might look at you here because I don't know if you have different criteria that might have a different rank. So if something is worth 5 to 10 points for one scholarship and it's also worth 5 to 10 points for a second, that's going to be connected criteria. So like if you change it on one, it'll update for another. But if you had the same question for financial need, but maybe it's out of 0 out of 5 points, that's going to be a separate scoring question that you would have to fill out.
Okay, so you cannot override that. They have to match if they're the same question.
If it's using the same sort of criteria point, if it's a shared criteria point, you can kind of think of it that way. Then if you update it for one, it'll update the other. Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I will just add, this is Eliza. If there's a reason why you believe they should be like very, very different and they appear to be connected, you could always add that into your comments, and I'll be able to see that from your comments that you would like that to be treated differently in some way. Again, this is only for people who are rating scholarships in multiple, are rating multiple scholarships across categories and happen to have shared students. So it only becomes a challenge for less than 10 of you, I think, but never, it is definitely for you a challenge. Yeah, so this is an issue on they're just shared because we moved to that shared application, and we also moved to the shared evaluation. So unless there's a specific reason that we would pull it out and make it totally separate, it does remain common. So where there's common questions, there's common evaluation.
Yep, that's a great point, Eliza. Yeah, if you're reading for just one scholarship or maybe 2 or 3 scholarships that had 0 overlapping students, this won't be a thing for you. You'll have to fill it out for each student at that point, which you should, because each student is their own person, obviously. So, any other questions? Okay. We got about 10 more minutes, and there's a couple more things I want to show you. But again, if there's any other questions, we'll pause at the end here to collect those. The other thing that I'll just show you here at the top of my screen here, if you're like me, I'm a grant reviewer for my local community foundation. I can read on a screen, but I don't prefer it. And in fact, I like to either print it out or put it on my tablet where I can kind of, highlight and all that fun stuff. If that's you too, we have a way you can retrieve and consume this content offline if you'd like. And that's by clicking this little packet here called application packet. And what this will do is this will crunch the applicant's application. It'll create an applicant PDF with the student's information on it, and it goes right into their application and all the things that they have filled out. And from here, you can print, you can save this, you can put it on your tablet, you can put it on your iPad, do whatever you want to it. That's fine if you can read it offline, if that's something that you want to do. So that is an option for you if that's your preference of reading things that way. Again, it's just that application packet button. Similarly, if maybe you're somebody who wants to print a blank evaluation form so that you can kind of maybe do your rankings offline and circle 1s and 5s as you go through, we still are asking you to come in online and enter in this information, again, mostly because of that score opportunity that, oops, let me reload this, of that score field that gets pulled in. If you're new to this and you haven't seen an evaluation report, our system's pretty powerful. We can run big reports that show, based on what scholarship, where is there most consensus for your foundation as far as this student was a top pick for everybody. It's going to make those meetings go a little bit quicker, which is really nice because it's a nice jumping off point for those deliberation meetings to talk about what students should receive what scholarships. So we still are going to ask you to come in and fill out this information, but again, it's going to make everyone's lives easier in the end when that happens. Yep.
And EC, at this point, I'll just also add, when we send you the email that says, oh, evaluations are ready for you to look at, we actually also create a paper sort of Excel spreadsheet that has each of the students on it for a quick glance and an ability to rate in a paper format first, understanding that that is definitely a preference for a lot of people because you're looking at a lot of applications and you might want to go back. So we always actually provide that for you. But again, put it on the paper if that makes sense for you, but then also go in and make sure that's filled in online. And if that is still a challenge or issue, I know sometimes people are doing it on iPads and things like that, it becomes maybe a little more challenging. You can always email that to us and we can input it for you as well. If there's just technical issues for you, that's also an option if that is an issue. And just one thing, because I've been asked this a number of times, EC, we ask that students separately upload, a resume, an essay, letters of recommendation, transcript. And when people are viewing that side by side, they often miss that in the side-by-side view, you don't actually see that right away. And you have to actually press on the blue. It's like in blue as like a link to it.
Yes.
Keep scrolling, keep scrolling.
Yeah, it's on here somewhere.
All the way down, all the way down. Yeah. Yeah, like
resume.
resume. That you have to actually click on the that button there where it's that PDF. That's how it brings it up. Or if you're in the application packet, it comes in at the end of the application packet. It's in there. Just I've had some people say, you know, they didn't see it or they didn't understand why the kid didn't provide it, but they actually did. They just sort of missed it when they were reviewing it on perhaps a tiny screen or something. It's easy to overlook. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you did, because this is actually new functionality this year. Last year, we did not have the ability to preview anything that was uploaded. You would have to click on this thing, which downloaded the copy of whatever it was to your device, which then you have, you know, now you have downloads to your own device on your own computer, your own iPad about, you know, resumes and EFCs and all that stuff. This is something that's new this year. This is something called Document Viewer. So it's instead of clicking this to download to then open up in a packet, if you click on this little eyeball button, this is called Document Viewer. And this allows you to have a quick preview of whatever the uploads are. So if you want to, you know, wanting to be able to click through all of the uploads, I use dummy uploads for everything, so don't pay too much attention to this, but you're able to click on this little eyeball icon in order to preview an upload, or at the very, very top, there's this document viewer right next to that packet button, which again will bring you to the screen that shows you all things that have been uploaded to this application that you can take a look at. Yep, kind of nice. Just quickly, I'll also show you kind of at the top here, this contact info tab never goes away. So let's say you're in the middle of ranking and you step away, you get a cup of coffee, you come back and you say, what student am I reading for again? If you do just need to reference that, it is up here under this contact info tab. The next two tabs over here, I'm going to say don't worry too much about. It just has to do with they're attached to the student as well. And so therefore, when you're looking at the student, you also see these tabs. There's not a lot of data there that's really relevant for you. But where there might be, I don't know, Lisa, how often you use this, but let's say the student emails and says, oh, I just got this wonderful letter of recommendation from my favorite teacher who was out on vacation, and so was not able to include that in time, but they did just get it to me. If it was like an addendum to an application or an add-on, you might see numbers here in these two tabs under documents and comments. And that, again, that's just information that is sort of attached to the request that might be additional information for you to look at. So I don't think we use this too heavily with you guys, but if that ever were the case, that's how you'd be able to access the kind of addendum information.
Yeah, I don't think we use that this time, but good to know that's there.
If you ever did need to, that's where you could do it.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep. And then lastly, anytime that you're just not sure what to do, you know, you're done, you've clicked save, you've done other things. Anytime you click on this home icon, this will always take you back to your dashboard, which again will sort of give you a nice overview of sort of where things are at. And just remember, the green is the goal in evaluation land. We want our board to look all green, and when we've done that, we've done everything we've been asked to do. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts?
I just will say one thing about the transference of scores. I want to go through the process again this year with having some scores transferred, but I'm not quite sure if I totally like that or not. And sometimes a candidate just stands out differently in a category with 10 applicants than they do, depending on the scholarship, then they do stand out in another category when you're reading 28 or 30 applicants for another one. So I'm willing to go through and try it again this year and see how that works out with having some of those like categories transferred. But sometimes my scores are slightly different, even on some of the other ones.
Yeah.
Because it depends on the group. But I'll work through it one more time and try it that way.
I also think, Linda, it's a really good point, and that's also why we don't just go on scores alone. That isn't what is who gets necessarily who gets the scholarship each time, and that's why it's so important to either, if you're not able to attend the either not likely in person, but Zoom or telephone call meeting, to provide comments ahead of time, or to be present at the meeting itself and to bring that into the discussion, because I do think there is a lot of nuance to these, and that's really important, and why we offer the chance to bring the full committee together to talk through. It's just like that one kid just seems right, but for some reason the score didn't quite make them the top one, but really that's who we feel is the one who most embodies this scholarship. I think that's quite frequent that we see that, and why we leave room for that discussion to bring that in, and agree that we will look at this for next year about whether we should separate some of them out.
Okay.
And I agree 100% that those meetings are so important, because at those meetings, when we talk about them, you find out, well, this person is receiving that scholarship. And maybe a candidate that came to the top, the second one, is the one that will get the scholarship because the one that ranked first already got one in another category. And it gives the foundations a chance to really spread those scholarships around to very deserving students. So.
And if you are part of one of the scholarships, that committees that meet towards the end, we do try to provide that information on any that have already been received as just one point of information for you to consider. But that does not preclude a student from receiving multiple scholarships, of course. So yeah. And I think, Linda, you're on one of the last committees that reviews. So you do get that information when available. So yeah, good point.
And I hope, Aliza, no one fell off their chair when they heard the number of scholarships that have been submitted already. So I just want to say, on behalf of the board and the scholarship committee, I am so thankful for everybody's time. It takes a lot of time to read these, and everybody that I see is so dedicated, so careful, so thorough. And I just want to thank everybody for their time. It means so much to the students. So, and thank you, Aliza, for coordinating everything and doing such a great job too.
Can I ask a question? This is Mary Ann. Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm on the Miles of Hope committee. And one of the main, I would say probably questions, evaluations that is on that is what the student or what activity the student developed breast cancer to, for money, et cetera, et cetera. How did you handle that this year? Because children obviously are not in school, and these activities were, were all done virtually or canceled. So that is kind of a main question in the evaluation of the applicant. So how did you handle that this year?
So Marianne, the question is still present on the application for the Miles of Hope specific. And, we allowed students to write whatever they could about that, which does include in certain cases, because I have been reviewing them, they said exactly what you said, that they weren't necessarily able to participate in the walk in person or whatever that might be. And I think as a committee, that's just going to be a point that you'll have to consider when looking at, does that matter whether they participated this very year, or can you include what they've done in the past and things like that. So again, I think that is a great committee level discussion. Another area I've heard other scholarships ask about a committee is thinking about whether employment, if that was an important part of their criteria. A lot of students obviously were not able to be employed in their jobs at the moment or get a job, and to really think about the different changes that might have happened this year that don't allow them to be involved in sports or clubs or employment, all sorts of things. And I think that's something we need to holistically look at on the committee level when we're evaluating that. That doesn't necessarily knock a student out, but that we understand, looking at them as a whole as a student, does that make the most sense that they, again, sort of like embody the real spirit of the scholarship itself? So yeah.
Because besides that question, like you said, there are the work question, you know, what they have done work-wise. The other one is what other activities that they're involved in, aside from the breast cancer issue. So yeah, I think it's going to make it, in my opinion, a little bit more difficult.
I will say too, one other thing that I've seen so far in the applications, also some committees strongly consider the like SAT scores or ACT scores. And in this case, in the past year, due to the pandemic, actually a lot of those opportunities to take those standardized tests were not available to students who might have signed up 3 and 4 times to take them, and it got canceled every single time. So there will be, while that's obviously a question we do ask, we'll have some different answers this year. We'll have to take just a different approach to some things, where some kids had the access and other kids did not, and that's not their fault. And so we have to look again, sort of holistically at the full student, what they were able to do, and whether they provided also some information for us, hopefully, to be able to evaluate them maybe in other ways. So yeah, great question, great thing to point out for us to consider this year for all of our committees.
Yeah.
I have a question. How do we go about getting the recording of this presentation today? Because several of the people that I review with were not able to attend today because they're still at work.
Hopefully EC will be emailing it to me after this, when we're done, and then I will email it out to all of you and then anybody else who is on the committee. So you're either free to send that with them. And I'm thinking too, I might also add it to the emails I send out to each of your committees to say, again, like, okay, time for you to go about evaluating right now. And just as a refresher, because some of you might not get that email for a whole month, to remind yourself again, oh yeah, it was that little button that I have to press in order to look at that. So I will put it hopefully in numerous ways for you. And if you don't get it or you can't find it, please email me and I'll happily send it out to you. No problem. Thank you, Vicki.
Good.
Any other questions, thoughts?
No.
These were great questions. You got a good group, Eliza. Yeah, the other thing I'll just mention is we love feedback. So as your technology partner, we want life to be easier for you. So if there's something you like, something you don't like, please let Eliza know. She'll let me know. I talk to our developers every week. So if there is something that you're burning, love to see it work a little bit differently this way or that way, there might be a way we can support that now. If not, there might be a way we can support that in the future. So please, we welcome your feedback.
Hi, this is Bob, in spite of the fact that it says Judy. I have a procedural question I meant to ask a while ago. When the bar turns green to say it's complete, is that irrevocable? Or can I go back and change it?
It's technically in a complete status if all of the questions have been answered, but technically you can still change your answers. So it doesn't go back to yellow or red or anything like that, but you're not locked in until there's a step Eliza will do right before she's about to run reports. That's actually the step of closing evaluations. That likely isn't going to happen until like probably right before you meet, I'm imagining, Eliza. So technically it's like, you're going through, you're reading one, the week passes and you're like, actually I kind of liked that, that student's answers better. You can always go back and update up until a certain point.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Thank you.
Good question.
Another question I just get often is if there's some reason that you do not see a recommendation or a resume or something like that. I have seen it occasionally in the software. I'm not really sure why, but just email us and let us know that there's some reason some document seems to be missing, and we will do our best to locate it for you. I don't know if you see, I've seen that on your end or heard other people tell you that, but I have had that happen. For the most part, though I will say possibly that might change slightly this year, we only pass on applications that are 100% complete. So if there's something missing, then that is a problem and an error on our side, and we will again try to locate that. I do think this year, due to we are finding out that a number of school breaks align with the exact time that the scholarships are due, that we might be getting some things a little bit later than normal, and we will be accepting that because again, that's not necessarily on the students, that their teachers are out on break. So they might come in at a different point, and we'll point that out and say we're missing this one thing, but we thought the student for all the information that was complete did seem like they were eligible, and so we're passing that on just to help your process when you're looking at 20 or possibly 30 or more applicants, not again for most of you, but some of you might see that many, that you will at least be able to start the process. So again, we'll tell you if we're missing a piece of information, but if you don't see it, please reach out to us and let me know, and I will figure out what happened to it.
This is Mary Ann again. I'm looking at your evaluation packet. Is that the same for every scholarship at the foundation, or are they designed differently? Like say for Miles of Hope, are the same questions on all the evaluation packets?
Great question.
That is good.
It looks to me like what you're mentioning here on the criteria for the evaluation, some of that has changed. At least at Miles of Hope, what I received from Miles of Hope.
Yeah, so it does depend on what scholarship you're looking at.
Okay.
Yep. So like right now, for this particular scholarship, this is for, and there might be common criteria that overlap with some of the things you might be evaluating for as well. Right. But anything that has additional or different requirements, that will be reflected based on whatever scholarship you're reviewing for.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
In order to make it easier for students, we have created a base application that is common across all scholarship opportunities that we have. So they fill out those questions first, then based on the answers that they give, they're then matched with different scholarship opportunities based on their eligibility level. And it is at that point they are then provided the opportunity to provide supplementary information, which can include anything from specific questions. So like what you noted about Miles of Hope, asking very specifically about what breast cancer activities they were involved in. It also includes any essays, specific essays, like you saw the overcoming obstacle essay. And it also includes recommendations too. Some of the scholarships, as you know, might require a clergy member, or might require an employer, or might require a coach to put in that. So it's at that point that they put in that extra information. So that's where you'll see variations. If you're looking at different applications, you might see variations, but for the most part, the core of the application itself is all the same. And we have only slight variations, I would say, in criteria. And some of that is actually more on whether that's considered more important in the criteria of evaluation, or less important in the criteria of evaluation. So often you'll see financial, for instance, financial need is considered one of the most important aspects, and for others it's just one of many. So you'll see that is where you might see difference on the scoring sort of side of it between different applications. Again, if you're a scorer on multiple scholarship opportunities.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time and attention. Much appreciated, and good luck. Thank you for your service. Yeah, let me know if you need anything else. I'm around.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, EC.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.